Hi, the year of the horse is coming up in a week, and I wanted to talk about, shedding and being a blocked creative. And I have been reading Writing for Life by Julia Cameron. She is also the author of The Artist Way. And I know some people might not like her style, but I do. And I wanted to share how I think living in a capitalist society, right, that's constantly bombarded with things that could shake up our nervous system, or having to survive in a capitalist society, which capitalism affects everybody everywhere. But how, be like having to survive in this kind of society where you have to pay bills, take care of yourself and your health. It's like the list goes on and on and on. It's just like never ending. But nourishing the creative child within us, like I know there's like nourish your inner child, but then it's like, how do we nourish the creative artist that is inside, that creative child that is also in us, right? Like the playful part. And in the book, I know in The Artist's Way, she suggests doing the morning pages, 3 pages a day of like writing it in a journal, which I've been doing in a journal. But also, it's like if you ever wanted to write a book or work on a project, you have to lower the bar. And I know that sounds crazy. If you're watching this, you're probably an overachiever. But by saying that, I think that it's a way of like decolonizing our system as well. I don't know if she would ever say this, but lowering the bar is a way of decolonizing because for example, I want to write a book, right? And then that spirals into, anyone ever going to buy it, or what is this going to turn into, or is it going to be a flop or is it going to be successful? And kind of trying to dig deeper into that. It's like, why am I saying those things? Is it a form of self sabotage and protection? Like, does it really serve anybody? And then so I've been believing in myself, like, yes, this book is going to go somewhere. It's going to land on the hands that it needs to. But also, I've been reflecting on, okay, this process is super important. It's like, how do I write meaningful things that is cathartic to my body, but also just show up? And in the book, Writing for Life, I am currently 33% in on the book, and she suggests saying, okay, why don't I do this for 20 minutes a day, which is writing? So do 20 minutes a day, but also tell yourself, like, I will write 2 pages today or 3 pages today. And it's like having that quota that's very like solid, instead of saying like, I'm going to write a book, and it's like put telling yourself not to let it get too far, like that vision, like, okay, cool, you have that vision, but you need a daily goal, right? So for me, it has transformed from, okay, let me write this book and my memoir, and it's going to be something that I leave behind and something people will read and learn lessons from based on my whole life story, which is overcoming all the impossible things, right? But then I'm actually at 17,000 pages. But then it's like, okay, how do I actually enjoy the part of this journey? Okay, I'm going to show up every single day for a certain amount of time, but let me write and start on one chapter a day. If you have ever thought of writing your book, think of it like, okay, I will write one chapter instead of the entire book, or waiting until you are done with a certain job, right? It's like, let me write one chapter this week. Let me write just a few pages. And I think the most cathartic part for me as an author and like an aspiring author is like actually reliving the memories. First, it was really painful to like dig deep, but I assigned some days to specifically talk about joy, because joy is a part of resistance, right? And yes, it's going to be a manual for like the past me, in order to go over the hurdles and pains that she has to go through in life and all the tests. But writing this book is medicine. I have heard that, I mean, for so long, but actually like feeling it, your body remembers certain stories and they demand to be felt. I'm going to repeat that again. Your body holds on to certain memories and certain stories, and they demand to be felt and told. I stand firmly on that. Oh my gosh. I'm just having downloads right now, as you guys can see. I know I was born onto this earth to write, but that thought in itself has always overwhelmed me. I've written academically. I mean, I just finished a whole doctorate's degree. I can write research. I could teach any kid, even the ones that are considered problematic or way behind. I can teach them how to formulate paragraphs or enjoy writing, right, through journaling. But then in the end of the day, it's like, me as an artist, what am I producing that can actually go out to the masses or to those that don't have access to me? Because my students have access to me because I work for a certain school district, right? And I work through different schools, but only those people have access to me. How do I open up the portal, right, to other people? Because it's really, like today I even said, okay, Aurora, you're going to speak with conviction because you know what you were put on this earth to do. And if you're a 33-year-old something, or you're in your 30 somethings and you have survived your 20s, or you are trying to survive your 20s, right, to stay afloat in this world and like pay your bills and try to achieve things. Along the way, that part of us, especially for me, I feel like I suppressed it. Like I've journaled for the past 3 years and I'm finally arriving at that identity of being able to write what I want to write. And it's not even like, because before I was like, okay, let me dream big. Like, let me make this a New York Times bestseller, which is cool. I'm not going to put that dream away. But then it's like, how do I achieve that on a daily basis? How do I actually create meaningful work, but not in a way that's going to reek of like perfectionism, right? Because I also don't want perfectionism to live in my mind rent free. So I'm going to read you this part from the book. And the task that she gives in this certain chapter is just 20 minutes. Sometimes getting started is the hardest part of writing. This week, set a timer for 20 minutes. Promise yourself that you have to do just 20 minutes and then you can stop. Notice how this works. Does this tool help you to begin? Are you eager to do more than 20 minutes? Once you have started, perfectionism. Perfectionism is a block, not a building block. We often tell ourselves that perfectionism is having standards, but in fact, it is a stalling device. Fill in the following sentences as quickly as possible with whatever comes to mind. So this one is really powerful. You gotta list it out. Like, what things would you do if you didn't have to do it perfectly? You have to like list it down. If I didn't have to do it perfectly, I would. If I didn't have to do it perfectly, I would, and write as long of a list as possible. And then number 3, your inner critic. All of us have an inner critic. All of us have an inner critic, that voice of doubt who knows our Achilles heel like no other. Fill in this activity. She says, name your critic. You may wish to name it after a person, a teacher or relative who doubted you in the past, or a villainous cartoon character, or you may wish to make up a name. Mine, as I have mentioned, is named Nigel. And the question is, what is the most common thing your critic says to you? What is the worst thing your critic has ever told you? Take the worst thing your critic has told you and turn it into a positive. For example, if your critic tells you that you will never be original and have nothing to say, convert this to I am Wally original and have many things to say. My writing is fresh, interesting, and unique. And number 4, something called blasting through the blocks. This is one of my favorite and most powerful tools. Number from 1 to 20 and write down every fear. Oh my gosh, I actually did this in my journal today. Write down every fear, resentment, and anger and worry you have about your project. When you finish, see if you don't have a surprising store of energy and determination to move forward despite your fears. It was really cathartic to just vent in the journal, just about my frustrations and rage on the page. It's like such a healthy way to spill it on the page. And place. Establishing place in our writing connects us to our reader and our reader to us. This is a 2-part exercise. Choose a spot in your house. Sit and write a paragraph describing and establishing the place. Go out into the world and choose a spot, right? So it's pretty much like depicting a painting or a photo through your words. And I think just reflecting on this and the artist way of showing up every single day for yourself and for your art, because it is healing. And I don't know, it took me a while to arrive to the part. I mean, I've been journaling for 1,000-something days, and to arrive at that really compassionate point of view in regards to art and creating and having it be so low stakes is something else. It's cathartic because I'm not creating for a grade. I'm not creating for credit. I'm not creating to post on Instagram. I mean, I'm posting here on YouTube, but it's to share my knowledge and like lessons I learned with life with you guys. But it's even that, right? I'm recording this not knowing how many views I'm going to get, and just like trusting that me speaking onto this mic is healing and somehow it's going to land where it's going to land. And like that also puts trust back in God and the universe, right? Of using this tool right here, which is our voice and our brain, and like using those ancestral gifts in order to keep the energy moving and flowing in our body. Because that's my realization, is like when we don't journal or we don't write and we know we're meant to journal and write, we are blocked creatives and our body holds on to that tension, and that energy is just within our body and we have to release it into the world. So what kind of art could you make today? Is there a page where you could just vent, or is there like a story or a chapter you could tell me? Yeah, oh my gosh, that reminds me of another friend. She's a teacher and a writer, and she likes to write short stories. And at first I was like, wow, that's amazing. But I didn't fully understand the concept at first. Because in my mind, you guys, being like an overachiever, it's like, what is this for? You know what I mean? What is this gonna accomplish? Like, that's how my brain works. But it's like, could we just create to create, just like little kids do, right? They like to draw, they like to paint, just for the sake of self-expression. And that sounds so cliche. But like, as adults, for us to do that, that's pretty revolutionary. And if we say like we don't have time to do it, I'm wondering if you have 5, 10, or 20 minutes to dedicate to the page to just create, because it feels really good. And maybe that's a part of waking up our consciousness, right? And For hundreds of years, we've been taught to be asleep. I know that as an artist, even as a Filipino American, this was never ever supported for me to be like a writer or to be any sort of artist, right? You have to excel well in school and go to medical school and whatnot. But as a 33-year-old me, I do have free will. I survived academia. And it's like, how do we take all of our life lessons of like surviving and excellence, and how do we just set the bar low? Like, that is such a challenge for us first gens and overachievers. How do we set the bar low so that we can show up every day and not be so intimidated or overwhelmed by it and just create? And by the end of the month, you have a whole portfolio of work. And I think that also in the book, she states that it builds your self confidence and that muscle of being an artist. So, thank you for listening and tuning in. And that's all I have for today. I can't wait to share what I learned tomorrow as well.